My name is Samuel Ortiz, and up until the day my life ended, I never imagined that something as innocent as a birthday could grieve God. I always believed birthdays were pure joy, one of the happiest and most wholesome traditions we had. Candles glowing in a dim room, people singing with smiles, laughter echoing off the walls. Growing up in a close Hispanic family, birthdays weren't just special, they were practically sacred. But not in a biblical way. They were sacred because for that one day, everyone treated you like royalty. My grandmother used to tell me, "Mijito, today the world revolves around you." I didn't realize until much later how different those words sound when viewed through heaven's perspective. Before all this happened, I served as a youth leader at my church. I was married to my high school sweetheart, raising 2 daughters who were the center of my world. On the outside, everything looked blessed. Steady job in logistics, our first home in Texas slowly coming together, and a calendar full of family events. What I never realized was that my spiritual life had slowly absorbed traditions I never questioned, habits and customs handed down by culture, not by scripture. The year I died, my 38th birthday, was supposed to be something special. My wife had been planning a party for weeks. I thought it was just a fun surprise to celebrate another year of life. But the truth is, everything leading up to that night became the doorway into the most frightening and glorious revelation I've ever experienced. When I woke up that morning, something felt wrong. A heaviness pressed on my chest, like someone had set a weight on top of me. I brushed it off, assuming it was work stress or maybe excitement for the party. By lunchtime my head was spinning, and by the time guests started arriving that evening, my vision had shrunk into a narrow tunnel. I remember hearing voices singing, "Happy birthday to you," and then silence. A deep, hollow silence that swallowed the room. I collapsed before blowing out the candles. The moment my body hit the floor, I was no longer in it. It felt like someone had grabbed me by the shoulders and yanked me out of myself. I expected darkness, but instead I landed at the border of eternity, somewhere indescribable. There was no sun, yet everything shone with a light more alive than anything on earth. The air itself had a weight, a purity, and it revealed every hidden thing inside me. I looked down and realized my body wasn't the same. It wasn't flesh anymore. It was something more solid, more alive than the human body I had left behind. I could faintly hear my wife calling my name somewhere far away, like someone shouting from another dimension. Then it happened. A presence approached, not walking, not floating, but filling the space around me with a force more powerful than a hurricane and yet gentler than the softest whisper. When I turned around, I saw him, Jesus. There was no mistaking him. His eyes carried fire and mercy all at once. Every part of my being recognized him instantly. He didn't greet me the way I expected. There were no comforting words like, "Welcome home." Instead, his voice cut straight through me. "Samuel, there are things my people do in my name that are not from me." Even in their celebrations, they unknowingly set a place for the enemy. I tried to speak, but my spirit trembled so violently I couldn't form words. He stepped closer, and suddenly scenes from my entire life surrounded us. My birthdays, my children's birthdays, birthdays of friends, moments I had never questioned. And with every passing image, his expression grew heavier. Deep sorrow mixed with holy anger. Then he said, "Let me show you, for birthday rituals that grieve heaven." He reached out his hand, and the first scene froze in front of us. My 10th birthday. I watched my younger self laughing with cake smeared across his face while relatives clapped and cheered. But behind everyone, I saw something I never noticed before. Shadowy figures lurking, whispering. Jesus said, "These are not human. They feed on pride, vanity, and self-exaltation. You invited them without even knowing." My spirit shook. "Lord, it was just a birthday. What did we do wrong?" He answered with grief in his voice. Ritual 1. The exaltation of self. He explained that birthdays in many cultures have shifted away from gratitude to God and have instead become miniature altars built to celebrate the person, making them the center of everything, even if just for a day. "On this day," he said, "the enemy delights, for he sees his own fall reflected in the celebration of self. As I watched the scene, every cheer added another invisible brick underneath my 10-year-old self, lifting him higher and higher. The pedestal grew, and the higher it rose, the further that child drifted from God's light. Lucifer fell because he sought glory meant for God. Birthdays often mirror that same spirit subtly but powerfully. He showed me my 30th birthday. We prayed for the food half-heartedly. But when it was time to toast to me, the entire room exploded with energy. Jesus said, "I do not hate joy. I created celebration." But when the focus shifts from the giver to the individual, the celebration becomes idolatry wearing a smile. Then he showed me what a Christ-centered birthday could have been. My family praying over me, thanking God for his purpose in my life. No shadows, only angels singing. Teach them, Jesus said, to celebrate life without dethroning the one who gave it. The vision faded, but the weight of it stayed. Then he said, "Are you ready for the second ritual?" My heart pounded. I nodded. Jesus lifted his hand, and the next vision unfolded around us like a curtain being pulled open. We were standing inside a quiet room, lit only by the glow of birthday candles. A child leaned forward, ready to blow them out. Adults surrounded the cake, smiling, waiting for the familiar moment everyone treats as harmless. But in the spirit realm, it was anything but harmless. Soft, eerie whispers drifted through the air, words no one in the physical world could hear. They came not from the people, but from unseen figures lingering just outside the candlelight. Make a wish. Don't speak it. Send it into the air. Jesus stepped toward the scene, his face solemn. Ritual 2, he said. The wish over the candles. A knot formed in my stomach. He continued, this practice has been woven into culture so deeply that even my children do it without a second thought. It seems innocent, even cute, but it teaches the heart to release desires into the unseen without me. That is the foundation of sorcery. The vision replayed dozens of my childhood birthdays. Each time I closed my eyes, shaped a desire in silence, and blew out the candles. I remembered thinking nothing of it. But now, standing inside this heavenly perspective, I saw what had been happening spiritually. Each time I made a wish and blew into the air, a subtle signal flickered in the spirit realm, an unanchored prayer with no direction toward God. Jesus showed me angels standing motionless during that moment, unable to respond because the wish held no invocation of the Father. But in the shadows nearby, other spirits reacted. They weren't answering wishes. They were taking note of them. Jesus spoke again, his voice heavy with sorrow. When a child learns to close their eyes, focus their heart's desire, and release it into the air without calling on my name, they learn a pattern that imitates occult practice. Intent plus secrecy plus spiritual release. This is how the enemy trains them in small steps. I swallowed hard. I had done this thousands of times. I had taught my daughters to do the same. I felt sick. Jesus approached me gently. The world tells children, don't tell anyone your wish or it won't come true. But I tell you, whatever you ask the Father in my name, he will give you. John 16 verse 23. The contrast pierced me. He continued, the enemy hides his influence inside innocent moments. A simple ritual can plant seeds that later become prayerlessness, impatience, and a belief that desires are fulfilled apart from my will. The vision changed again. This time, Jesus showed me an alternate version of a birthday, one aligned with heaven. A child stood before the candles and instead of making a secret wish, he prayed, Lord, thank you for another year. Help me grow in your ways. In that moment, the light around the child brightened. Angels rejoiced. The entire room felt different, pure, undefiled. Jesus turned to me. Teach them to replace the wish with prayer. Teach them to speak desires openly before me. This removes the enemy's foothold. The scene dissolved and suddenly we were in a large banquet hall. Rows of decorated tables, balloons floating in clusters, laughter filling the air. I recognized it immediately. My own 25th birthday celebration. I saw myself surrounded by co-workers, friends, and family. Gifts were stacked on a table like a mini mountain. Everyone was clapping, cheering, eating. But Jesus wasn't looking at the guests. He was looking at what I had never seen. Small, thread-like cords stretched invisibly between people, from gift givers to recipients. Some cords were bright, like gold threads representing love, generosity, and pure intentions. But others were dark, heavy, binding. Ritual 3, Jesus said, the covenant hidden within gifts. I looked at him in shock. He explained, giving is holy when done with a clean heart. But the enemy twists holy things. Many gifts exchanged during birthdays carry unspoken agreements, expectations, emotional entanglements, spiritual claims. The vision zoomed in on a gift I remembered clearly, a luxury watch from a coworker. In the vision, as I opened the box, a dark thread attached itself to my spirit. Jesus said, when the motive behind a gift is pride, manipulation, obligation, or hidden agenda, it becomes a tether, not physically but spiritually. Suddenly, all those years of feeling obligated to certain people made sense. Times when I made decisions I didn't want to make because I felt indebted. Jesus showed me that I wasn't imagining those feelings. They were real spiritual ties. He continued, in ancient times, offerings and feasts were used to create spiritual agreements. Today, birthdays often function the same way, without people realizing it. The scene shifted rapidly. I saw modern examples, a bracelet prayed over in a pagan temple before being given as a gift, a decorative statue offered to a demon before being wrapped in shiny paper, a book designed to reshape a person's worldview slowly, objects carrying curses hidden beneath sentiment. My stomach twisted. Jesus placed a hand on my shoulder. Tell them this, pray over every gift before receiving it. Dedicate it to me. Break every unclean tie in my name. A new scene appeared instantly. This time I saw a young man receiving a simple handmade gift from a friend whose heart was pure. No dark cords attached to him. Instead, a beam of warm light passed back and forth between giver and receiver, and angels recorded it. Jesus said, it isn't the act of giving that offends heaven. It is the spiritual entanglement created when motives are impure. I nodded slowly, my heart pounding. Then Jesus's tone changed, more serious, deeper. There is still one ritual left, he said quietly. The most dangerous of all. The air around us tightened. The light dimmed slightly. Attention fell over the atmosphere like the moment before lightning strikes. I braced myself. Ritual 4, Jesus said, is where the enemy claims the most souls. His voice carried both grief and righteous anger. The final revelation was coming, and I wasn't ready. The atmosphere around us tightened, as if creation itself was bracing for what Jesus was about to reveal. The warmth of his presence was still there, but now it carried a sharpness, like standing in the quiet moments before a storm breaks open. Then the next vision unfolded. We were in a backyard at night. Strings of lanterns hung overhead, music thumped through speakers, and people were laughing loudly. Drinks sloshed in hands, and someone was lighting sparklers near a giant birthday cake. I recognized the setting almost immediately. It wasn't one of my birthdays, but I had been there, a friend's celebration years earlier. But this time, Jesus let me see what no human eye could ever catch. Arguments simmering beneath the jokes. Flirtations between people in relationships with others. Gossip whispered into eager ears. Drunken laughter masking spiritual numbness. And hovering above the crowd, dark silhouettes watching closely, waiting for hearts to slip. Jesus spoke, his voice grave. Ritual 4, he said, the night of license. I waited, trembling, as he continued. This is when people treat a birthday as permission to indulge the flesh, as if sin becomes permissible because the date changes. In the vision, one man stumbled across the yard shouting obscenities. A woman leaned too close to someone who wasn't her husband. Friends egged each other on to drink more, joke more crudely, abandon their inhibitions just for one night. But in the spirit realm above them, demons circled like vultures. They whispered, "It's your night. Do whatever you want. No consequences today. You deserve this." Jesus' tone was filled with heartbreak. The world teaches that a birthday is a free pass for excess. But when my people follow this pattern, they step directly into the enemy's territory. He reminded me of a scripture. "You have spent enough time doing what the pagans desire, living in drunkenness, lust, and reckless behavior." 1 Peter 4 verse 3. In the vision, every action, every crude joke, every drunken moment, every immoral whisper, registered as a spiritual transaction. Dark figures recorded them as accusations to be used later. It was horrifying. I watched as people I had once laughed with stumbled through that night, unaware they weren't just having fun, they were being baited. Jesus' expression hardened with righteous grief. "This ritual wounds heaven the most," he said, "because it trains my people to use celebration as justification for sin." Suddenly I saw my own 21st birthday, the night I first legally drank. In the vision, I could see what I had never noticed. The way each drink dulled my spiritual sensitivity. How conversations drifted into pride and mockery. How I had laughed off things that broke God's heart. How the enemy had whispered, "It's okay. It's your big day." Jesus spoke softly. "Wine itself is not evil. But when you surrender mind and body to the desires of the flesh, you leave the covering of my spirit." He then showed me a different scene, another kind of birthday gathering. Families sitting around a dinner table, reading scripture, praying blessings, eating together, laughing without regret. No drunkenness, no impurity, just joy. Angels walked among them freely. The atmosphere was bright, pure, pleasing to heaven. Jesus looked at me with compassion and firmness at the same time. "This is the celebration I designed," he said. "Joy that doesn't depend on sin to feel alive. Memories that don't need apology the next morning." The relief I felt was overwhelming. There was a right way, a holy way, but the conviction was equally deep. I had participated in the night of license more than once. Jesus turned to me. "Tell them this," he said. "If you cannot invite me to the way you celebrate, you are inviting someone else. Every feast has a spiritual guest of honor." As he said this, the four visions appeared side by side like glowing panels. Self-exaltation, the candle wish incantation, the gift covenant entanglements, the night of license, each one burning with clarity. Jesus spoke again. "These rituals have embedded themselves so deeply in culture that even my people perform them without question. But the time has come to decide, the traditions of man or the truth of heaven." The visions disappeared, leaving only the weight of the revelations burning inside me. I stood before him shaken to my core. The four rituals weren't harmless. They were spiritual openings. Small cracks the enemy had widened through generations until they felt normal. And then Jesus asked the question that made my heart pound. When those visions faded, I found myself standing in absolute stillness. Not a sound, not a breeze, just a holy, penetrating silence. It felt as though heaven itself was holding its breath. My mind was spinning with everything Jesus had shown me. The shadows at the birthday table, the whispers over the candle flames, the threads woven through gifts, the spiritual breakdown disguised as celebration. All of it weighed on me like a mountain. Jesus stepped forward, and the nearness of his presence made my knees weak. His eyes, filled with both mercy and authority, locked onto mine. "Samuel," he said softly, "I didn't reveal these things so you could return and stay silent." Something in his tone made my entire spirit tremble. I suddenly understood. I wasn't just being informed. I was being commissioned. A verse from Ezekiel flashed in my mind, as if whispered into my soul. A watchman who sees danger but refuses to sound the alarm will be held accountable for every life lost. Jesus' voice carried the very same weight. "You must warn my people." My heart dropped. He continued, "Many will refuse to listen. Many will mock you. They will say, 'It's harmless tradition.' They will say, 'God doesn't care about small things.' but every tradition that is not born from my Father's heart slowly pulls them away from me. His words struck like lightning. Do not water down the message to make it easier to accept, he said firmly. Speak exactly what I have shown you. I swallowed hard. Lord, I whispered, what if they don't believe me? He answered immediately, belief is not your assignment. Obedience is. Then he added, even if one person rejects you today, a seed will still take root. Some seeds grow in days, others take years. But my words never return empty. The responsibility felt enormous, but then he placed his hand on my shoulder. A surge of strength, pure heavenly strength, poured into me. I could feel courage, boldness, clarity flowing through my spirit like living fire. His voice softened but remained absolute. You will be criticized. You will be labeled extreme. Even some believers will push back against you. But remember this. He stepped closer, his gaze fierce with holy conviction. They mocked the prophets long before they mocked you. Your mission is not popularity. Your mission is faithfulness. Then he leaned even closer, and his next words pierced straight into the deepest part of me. Tell them I am returning soon, and tell them that the little things matter far more than they realize. As soon as he said that, I felt a pull powerful, sudden, like a wind grabbing hold of my entire being. The light around us began to fade, and I felt myself being drawn backward. I tried to hold on. I didn't want to leave him. I didn't want to go back to the heaviness of the world. But the pull grew stronger. Then everything went dark. A rush of pain exploded in my chest. Air slammed into my lungs like fire. Sharp hospital lights glared into my eyes. Suddenly, I heard panicked voices. He's back. We've got a pulse. Keep pressure. Stay with us. I felt a hand gripping mine. I turned my head and saw my wife's face, streaked with tears, shaking, whispering my name like a prayer she thought would never be answered. Paramedic leaned into view, breathless. Sir, stay with us. You were gone. No heartbeat for several minutes. But I wasn't thinking about my heart. I wasn't thinking about my body. All I could think about was the message. I had been sent back. Everything changed after that. I recovered quickly, faster than the doctors believed possible. They called it unexplainable, but I knew exactly why. Once home, I couldn't celebrate birthdays the way I did before, not after what Jesus revealed. I began with my own household. We replaced Make-A-Wish with spoken prayers of gratitude. We prayed over every gift before opening it. We removed anything rooted in pride or secrecy. We shifted the entire atmosphere from self-focus to worship. And something beautiful happened. A peace settled over our celebrations in a way I had never felt. When friends invited us to parties, they noticed the difference. Some were curious. Some were uncomfortable. Some rolled their eyes. But I couldn't unsee what Jesus showed me. I had died, stood before him, and returned with a warning imprinted on my spirit. Now every birthday party I'm invited to, every child blowing out candles, every gift exchanged, every "it's your day, do whatever you want," it all hits me differently, not with fear, but with urgency. Because I know, with absolute certainty, what heaven sees when we do the things we think are nothing. I know what hides behind traditions we never question. And I know this cannot stay quiet, not after meeting him, not after seeing what breaks his heart. So I speak, I teach, I warn, not to bring fear, but to bring light, because he asked me to, because he showed me, because I died once, and the one who brought me back gave me a mission.